You've heard of heat pumps. Do you know how one works? Do you know if it will help your wallet? Do you know if it will reduce your emissions? This show will help you think through that. Welcome back. Today we're going to talk about heating and cooling your house. This is an introductory show, and we'll refer to several other shows at the end because there's so many different options. It's a bit complicated, and your specific situation is going to direct you to one or more of the other shows. Two takeaways from this particular show is one, the next time you replace any element of your heating and ventilation system for your house, consider heat pump technology. It's better for the environment, likely better for your wallet, and it enables you to eventually get to zero emissions. The other takeaway is plan ahead. You don't want to wait until the winter when your furnace fails or the summer where your air conditioner fails. You're in the panic crisis mode. You'll pay a lot more for the replacement, and the replacement will come in kind because that's the busiest time for the HVAC techs and their inventory is low. So plan ahead. Heat pump. What's a heat pump? You've heard the technology. You probably have 3 of them in your house. Your air conditioner is a heat pump. It only goes one way. It pumps heat out of the house. Same with your refrigerator. It pumps heat out of the refrigerator, and your car likely has an air conditioner. What a heat pump is, it's an air conditioner that can pump heat out and reverse itself, pump heat in. Take a look at the first chart here. It shows what you might be familiar with your air conditioning system. There's this thing on the outside that has a noisy compressor and a big fan that's blowing air through it. Then on the inside of the house, it's working with a unit that's incorporated into your central heating and air conditioning system. So here you can see this is in the heat mode where there's cold air outside, and somehow magically this compressor takes heat out of the cold air and makes the air even colder outside and drives that heat to the inside where the cool air on the inside comes in and gets heated. And you say, how does that work? And it's very complicated. It's thermodynamics. But understand, your air conditioner works, and it's doing the exact opposite. It's taking heat from inside your house and driving it into a hotter environment outside. So it does work, and I'd like you to explore this for options when you replace your HVAC. Let's take a look at the different options you have in the next chart to heat your house. Now, understand there's only one way you can cool your house, and that's with an air conditioner. But when you go to the heating mode, you've got a lot of choices. These are all the different options you have, and this is the wallet version. This is what it costs you for each one of these types of heating. It's all on the same basis. It's dollars per million BTU. A BTU is a British thermal unit. It's the amount of heat required to take 1 pound of water, increase it 1 degree Fahrenheit. So it's all standard. Yeah, you hear about therms and joules and gallons and kilowatt hours, but this puts it all on the same basis. Less confusing. So this shows you that 3 forms that you can burn fossil fuel in your house to heat it: natural gas, oil, and propane. You can see there, natural gas, if you have pipeline natural gas, it's probably the cheapest way to heat your house of those options. The other ones cost a little bit more at the refinery, and they got to be delivered by truck. So obviously they are more expensive. Then there's 5 different forms of heating your house using electricity. The first one is electric resistance heating. This is like your space heater, baseboard heater, your stove, and some central heating systems have a resistant element in them. This is the cheapest installation cost you can have. Very cheap to put in, but as you can see, the most expensive way to heat your house. And then there's 4 different versions of a heat pump, and they have this thing called COP, which is the coefficient of performance. And it's basically how more efficient is it than electrical resistance heating. COP of 2 is twice, so you can see the cost is half. COP of 5 is 1/5, 20% of the cost, and so it's much cheaper. All of these costs are based on the national average in the U.S. The oil is actually before the Iraqi war, but these are the average prices for electricity, natural gas, oil, and propane. Your local one may be higher, may be lower. So you look at this and you say, okay, so what should I do? And it says, hey, let's go with the heat pump, a COP of 5. That's the cheapest. One problem with the heat pump, and you'll see that on the next chart, is when you replace your air conditioner, what's called, what I showed you before, an air-sourced heat pump, where you're trying to extract heat out of cold air. The colder it is outside, the harder it is to do, the lower the COP. So you can see on this chart, the COP goes down as the outside temperature goes down, which makes sense. You don't need a PhD in physics to say, hey, it's going to be harder to extract heat out of the colder environment. So you look at this, it goes, at -5 degrees, it's 1.7 COP. At 65, it's 4 COP. And this is for a Bryant heat pump, which is Carrier's lower end. So it's, a typical heat pump. So you can see based on that heat pump, it's going to almost always outperform oil or gas from a cost standpoint. But it's going to be tough to compete with natural gas, especially when the temperatures get cold. So you can see when we look at different alternatives, if you've got natural gas, all the economics are going to look a bit different than oil or propane. That's why we break the shows up in the future. Now that's your wallet. How about the world? What about the emissions? Well, this is a little bit different. So what we did here was put the carbon dioxide emissions per million BTUs generated. So it's all on the same basis. As you can see, the three items or the three fossil fuels you can burn in your house, natural gas, oil, and propane, produce carbon dioxide directly. The emissions are right there coming from your house, and they're listed there. Natural gas is a little bit better than oil and propane. Now, for electricity, there's no emissions at your house. Those emissions come back at the utility that's generating the electricity. And if it's coming from solar, nuclear, wind, or hydroelectric power, it's actually zero. However, we've talked about the grid, that incrementally when you add, like for instance, if you're burning oil now, you stop burning oil and you get a heat pump and use electricity, that electricity, incremental electricity that you're adding to the grid is probably going to be generated from natural gas. So that's what I use to calculate the carbon dioxide per kilowatt hour. And you can see here, again, electric resistance is not good for your wallet. It's not good for the world, but the heat pump outperforms all of the fossil fuel burning in your house at almost any temperature. It's only when it gets pretty cold outside that it's even with propane and oil, and maybe a little bit higher than the natural gas. So at the end of the day, when you consider changing your HVAC system because it's getting older, if you've got oil or propane, you'll go to one show. If you've got natural gas, you'll go to another show, and we'll take you through some tools that you can use to analyze your specific situation, what you pay for oil, what you pay for natural gas, what you pay for electricity, etc., and try to get the best blend of wallet and world impact you can have. But again, you want to be proactive here in replacing your HVAC system. You don't want to be in a crisis situation. So go to one of these shows, look at different options, and then engage a couple of different HVAC installers. Get some quotes, explore what your options are, and you'll pay a lot less money. You want to do this in the spring or the fall where they're not really busy. The other reason you want to do it early, when your air conditioning system gets more than 10 years old, it's probably getting less efficient and it's near the point of failure. One of the issues with when it fails is a lot of times it's a leak of refrigerant. And if you leak the refrigerant, it has a huge impact on global warming. You've got enough refrigerant in your air conditioner that if it's released to the environment, it's probably equivalent to a full year of your normal emissions. The worst case is it's leaking. You have an HVAC person come in and they say, oh, your refrigerant's low, let me recharge it. Well, if it's low, it's leaking. If he recharges it, it's leaking again, and you can double the impact. So just from an environmental standpoint, you want to be proactive, but also to avoid the crisis and the cost. There'll be 3 other shows that we'll have around heating and cooling that may be of interest to you. One is the whole area of conservation. You look at your house to say, okay, hey, I may want to put a heat pump in, I may want to change HVAC, but should I do some things to lower the load, my heating load and cooling load on my house that makes sense for my wallet and the world? I've spent a lot of time doing this on many houses, and so that one show will give you some advice from my experience on what to do and what not to do. Another show will be on burning wood and wood pellets. Now, this is an area that I've explored and implemented, and it's a way to supplement the heating of your house with a natural fuel. Instead of burning a fossil fuel, you burn wood or wood pellets. And that carbon does produce carbon dioxide, but it came from the atmosphere. It got sucked in through photosynthesis, and you're just releasing it back. So it doesn't increase the amount of carbon dioxide in the surface system. So if you're interested in that, explore that one. And then finally, we'll have one on what I call space heating. So you may not be ready to replace your old house. You may have, your central system for your house. You may have some rooms that you use a lot or really don't get cooled or heated properly. There's a lot of options here, space heaters, mini split systems that I put in, and window units that are both air conditioner and heat pumps that would be helpful for you to explore to, help your wallet and the world, but in a more narrow approach to your house. Thanks again for listening. I hope you enjoy some of the future shows. Thank you for watching Fade Your Footprint, a show about home decarbonization. Make sure you visit my website, fadeyourfootprint.org, and check out my free tools or book a free Zoom session with me to take steps toward reducing your personal carbon emissions.